different topics to cover tonight. But before we get started, I want to cover a little bit of Nelson Mandela's death. And I'm just going to be completely honest here for the next 10 minutes, and whether or not you all agree with me or disagree with me, that's fine. It's up to you. Do with this commentary what you will. But a lot of people have been asking me on Facebook my thoughts and my opinions on Nelson Mandela. And I have very mixed emotions about the man, to be quite honest. Because upon doing further research about Nelson Mandela, I have discovered that he did associate with known communists, most notably Fidel Castro, whom he considered a friend, I believe. And to me, that's very dangerous when you have radical communists in your social circles, ladies and gentlemen. Now, say what you will about Nelson Mandela. Some of you may dislike him. Some of you may love him. I'm kind of apathetic. I think that Nelson Mandela stood for many good things in his later years. I think the work that he did when he was an older man, I think that's to be admired by everyone. I think he did have to overcome racism in a huge way. I think that's to be admired. However, the man is no saint by any means. The AWN, or the Africa, I can't remember the exact initials of his group, but his the group that he was affiliated with, the ANC, the African National Congress, did in fact have radical terrorist members operating inside when he was protesting in the early 60s. And he was affiliated with that group. And I don't care what your opinions are on certain topics. I'm talking about Nelson Mandela here. I don't care what your personal ideology is. When you are associated with people who have massacred others the way the ANC did, necklacing, burning people alive as the ANC did. Even if you personally are fighting for peace, that's going to stain your image. And that is going to cause some people to question who you are, even after your death, as the case is with Nelson Mandela. Now, I posted a photo on my personal Facebook page earlier today of Nelson Mandela and Fidel Castro. And my purpose in doing that was not so much to inflame people or start a debate necessarily, which is what it turned into. But my mere thought is, before you all go praising this man for being such a great leader, take a look at who he's hanging out with. The man might not be a saint or as good of a man as you thought he was, or as I thought he was. And that was my general message, and I am going to be posting this segment of the audio on Facebook. And I'm hoping that if you're listening to this later on tonight, if you're listening to this segment later on tonight, that you understand that my purpose was merely just to say, yeah, Nelson Mandela could have been a great guy, for all I know. On the other hand, he could have been as much of a racist as anyone. There were lots of things about that man, such as the photo with Fidel Castro, that people have found that I'm not digging. I don't dig the fact that he hung out with Fidel Castro. I've got to be honest. Because the one thing I know for certain is that Fidel Castro is an evil man. He did kill millions of his own people. And the one thing that I want to know is, did Nelson ever reach out to Fidel and say, this communism thing that you've got going over in Cuba isn't working out, dude? Now, of course, he wouldn't have said dude, but I'm paraphrasing here, of course. All I'm saying is that from what I've read about Nelson Mandela, and I've read both sides. I've read what was good about him, and I've read what's bad about him. And I've just come to the conclusion that I'm in the middle. I think what he stood for in his later years was good, as I said earlier, and I do think that's something to be celebrated. And only time will tell now how much of an impact he had on South Africa, because now, going forward, we have to see how the people of South Africa fare. We have to see if they continue to live in peace. That's where we're at right now. And in the coming years, I hope it does stay peaceful. But like I said, the ANC, Nelson's group, there were radical terrorists in there. And it would be such a shame, it would be saddening for me, if someone were to take over from the ANC and start committing atrocities in the name of Nelson Mandela. So as I said, only time will tell what goes on. And I want to play this clip because many liberals out there, unfortunately, are now claiming that conservatives and Republicans hate Nelson Mandela. I don't hate Nelson Mandela. The man may have a shady past in some areas, and I'm not too keen on that, but I don't hate him. I love everything he stood for, and I think that Mary Matlin said it best in an interview earlier today. She was debating Michael Eric Dyson on Nelson Mandela, and this was what she had to say on the issue. Take a listen. I think this is good commentary. And this is basically where I'm at now. This is Mary Matlin this morning. Cut number 1, go.
Here when they forget that Dick Cheney wanted to put him on the terrorist list and insisted he stay there, that Ronald Reagan resisted. He said on the one hand Nelson Mandela should be released, but he depended upon a white supremacist government to reform itself from within. I think Nelson Mandela challenged that. Also, though, he challenged people on the left as well.
Amnesia, Mary?
Yeah.
When will you ever get to beating up on Darth Vader, who said Nelson Mandela is a good man? As we've seen in your earlier segment, it was a complicated situation. The ANC was a terrorist organization at one point. He has since said wonderful things about Nelson Mandela.
And there you have it. Again, the ANC was a terrorist organization. Everyone knows that. Nelson may have been a racist. Nelson may have followed everything that group stood for in his heart until the day he died. He may have matched their ideology. I don't know. And nobody else I know truly knows. So, for all of you who want to start a controversy over the fact that I brought up his relationship with Castro on both sides, I ask that you just take a listen to this real quick and consider both sides. And here's my ultimate take on this. The world may be in mourning over Nelson Mandela right now, but I've got news for you, ladies and gentlemen. We've got things here that we have to deal with right now. We've got a bad economy. We've got a nation still trying to rebuild itself. We've got political tension in both parties. And so we've got a lot of stuff to fix here, and that is what I'm here to talk about. That is what I commentate